The topic of my presentation is how and why Lucas Cranach the Elder's binary depiction of women as either sinners or saints appealed to Adolf Hitler. This presentation will mostly focus on analysis of paintings by Lucas Cranach the Elder, but I do at times touch upon sadder parts of World War II history, such as persecuted groups, for example, as it relates to art theft. Lucas Cranach the Elder was a 16th century German painter. He is known as a Reformation painter, as he worked for the Protestant Holy Roman Elector Frederick the Wise of Saxony. He was court painter for this elector beginning in 1505. Lucas Cranach the Elder was also personal friends with Martin Luther and a devout Protestant. In fact, he went into exile later in life for 2 years, in part due to Protestant-Catholic conflict. He was known for painting famous Protestant reformers, as well as Christian and mythological scenes with a classical and imaginative style. The focus, though, of this presentation is on Lucas Cranach the Elder's binary depiction of women. We're going to compare his Webermont paintings with paintings of idealized Christian female saints. Webermont is a sort of outdated term, but it means it sort of refers to works of art and literature in which women are characterized as malicious and willing to use their sexuality to lead men to their downfall. The photo included on the slide is a self-portrait of Lucas Cranach the Elder, which is included in a detail of his painting, The Holy Kinship, painted in 1509 or 1510. Just so you know, the next slide goes into more detail about Webermont and includes works of art that depict men being physically abused by women. Webermont is an artistic theme popular during classical times, the Middle Ages, and the Renaissance. It is also reflected in historic and influential pieces of literature such as the Bible. In these works of art and literature, women yield power, which is solely sexual or influential in nature. In Webermont paintings, women are depicted as leading men to their downfall or humiliation by using to their advantage their sexual desirability and the power this asset confers with regards to controlling and influencing men, always with malicious intent. None of the paintings in this slide are by Lucas Cranach the Elder. I just included this slide to show it was a larger theme in European art at this time. The first engraving on the left is titled Aristotle and Phyllis by Master M.Z. It was created in 1500. This engraving depicts a legend about the philosopher Aristotle and that he allowed a woman named Phyllis to mount and ride him like a horse because she promised him sexual favors if he allowed her to do so. This legend illustrates Webermont fears about how man's desire for sex can overshadow intellect and pride, even for someone as intellectually advanced as Aristotle. The painting on the right is by Artemisia. It depicts the biblical story of Jael, who drives a peg through the skull of an enemy commander named Sisera. Prior, according to the story, Jael duplicitously allowed him refuge in her home, only to mislead and kill him. It's these types of biblical and classical stories and myth that are often utilized in Webermont paintings. Here are some examples of Webermont paintings by Lucas Cranach the Elder. On the far right, there's another depiction of Phyllis and Aristotle, the backstory to which we discussed earlier. The other two paintings are Webermont depictions of biblical stories, starting on the left with Judith and Holofernes, and in the middle is Samson and Delilah. Both of these stories and paintings chronicle a man's downfall due to conniving action on the part of a woman the man trusted and sexually desired. For example, Judith led Holofernes to believe she would have sex with him, then beheaded him. In Lucas Cranach the Elder's painting, Judith's steely gaze towards the viewer, an apparent lack of remorse or of being impacted at all by the gruesome act or gruesome human head she holds, is startling. As for the biblical story, the other painting, that of Samson and Delilah, depicts Delilah dated Samson in order to win Samson's trust. She succeeded, and he told her his secret, that his superhuman strength would go away if a lock of his hair was cut off. So Delilah chopped off a lock of his hair while he was sleeping. In Cranach's painting, Delilah's upright posture and calm resolve contrasts with Samson's relaxed and vulnerable state, creating a chilling effect. Both Judith and Delilah had loyalties to factions and communities that were enemies with the military heroes whose lives they destroyed. All of these paintings are a good example of Vibrant paintings, as they depict women using sexual power over men to humiliate them and or destroy their lives. An additional type of Vibrant painting Cranach did multiple versions of is Cranach's ill-matched couple paintings. Ill-matched, that is, because of an age gap. These paintings most often depict a younger woman reaching into an older man's pockets for money as the man gazes at her love-struck, as you can see in the examples on the slide. Although Cranach did depict ill-matched couples in which the woman was the older party occasionally as well. Lucas Cranach the Elder either painted women in a way that played to Vibrant themes or presented women as holy and exalted, perfect and saintly. Two examples of Lucas Cranach the Elder's paintings of women as saintly are his paintings The Martyrdom of St. Barbara and Saints Genevieve and Apollina. In The Martyrdom of St. Barbara, the painting to the left, St. Barbara's death, a key scene in her hagiographical story, is depicted. St. Barbara makes the ultimate sacrifice for her Christian faith. She options to die rather than renounce her faith. Her ruler father, Dioscorus, gives St. Barbara opportunities to convert to paganism, but she refuses, and Dioscorus ultimately kills her for this transgression, or what he viewed as a transgression. Even in the compositional details of the painting, Lucas Cranach depicts Barbara as exalted. For example, St. Barbara's dress is chic and embroidered in an elaborate way, emphasizing her royal lineage. She also wears a pearl necklace, which alludes to her innocence, as contemporary viewers would understand it, as pearls symbolized chastity and purity in the 14th and 15th centuries. As well, Lucas Cranach the Elder depicts St. Barbara's form as sloping curves, from her dress to her shoulder to her curled hair, which calls to mind elegance, softness, femininity, and by association of these other virtues, innocence. Conversely, the lines of Dioscorus' composition are more jagged. He stands contrapposto, leaning over St. Barbara inelegantly with a sharp and menacing sword. Lucas Cranach the Elder also depicts Saints Genevieve and Apollina on the right as holy and aspirational women. Saint Genevieve on the left is depicted holding a candle, which, according to her hagiographical story, miraculously relit while she was praying. According to legend, the devil had put the candle light out prior. The symbolism of the candle in this context calls to mind St. Genevieve's goodness and faithfulness. Similarly, Apollina holds a pair of pliers, and the pendant on her necklace depicts pliers as well, which calls to mind the sacrifice she made for her faith. Apollina was a Christian saint from Alexandria who converted to Christianity and was tortured because of her unwillingness to renounce her faith. She was tortured by having her teeth extracted with pliers before being killed. This symbolism calls to mind her sacrifice, faith, and goodness. A main part of my argument is that Lucas Cranach the Elder depicted women as either evil sinners or exalted saints with no room for nuance and complexity. I provided examples and analysis of both types of depictions by Lucas Cranach the Elder. Next, I'm going to switch gears and discuss Adolf Hitler's affection for Lucas Cranach the Elder, especially Vibrant paintings by Lucas Cranach the Elder, and make the argument that Adolf Hitler had an affection for paintings by Lucas Cranach the Elder because the dictator held similar good-bad binary views of women as reflected in Nazi policy and propaganda. Adolf Hitler had a personal affection for Lucas Cranach the Elder's artwork generally, and stole numerous of his paintings, mostly from collectors belonging to persecuted groups like Jewish individuals. He displayed a few of Cranach's Vibrant paintings, such as Venus and Cupid the Honey Thief, in the breakfast room of his personal permanent suite at the Elephant Hotel in Weimar. So there is a photo on the left of that breakfast room and that painting hanging. He also displayed Cupid Complains to Venus in his personal gallery. So on the right, there is a photo that was found in what was originally a Nazi album titled The Private Gallery of Adolf Hitler. Although many of the art stolen by Nazis were stored in hidden locations, Adolf Hitler chose to display these stolen works of Cranach in personal spaces, revealing a strong personal affection. Here are clearer images of the paintings referenced in the prior slide. Both are versions of Venus and Cupid. Lucas Cranach the Elder made 27 versions of this subject throughout his life. These are Webermatt paintings, as they depict Venus as uncaring about her son, Cupid, who is crying because he has stolen a piece of honeycomb and is being stung by numerous bees. Rather than comforting her child, Venus makes eye contact with the viewer, which has a chilling effect. Her sexuality is emphasized not only by her depiction as nude, but also by Venus's nude form being the central part of the image, which further draws the viewer's focus to her beauty and sexuality. The painting on the left, Venus and Cupid the Honey Thief, is not the original painting by Lucas Cranach the Elder. It is a copy. Because Lucas Cranach painted numerous versions of Venus and Cupid, I was unable to confirm if this copy on the left is without a doubt a copy of the version stolen by the Nazis and then displayed in Hitler's breakfast room. However, at a minimum, it is a very similar painting. It is unknown where the original painting by Cranach is. After World War II, it was very likely stolen by a United States soldier because the painting reappeared in the United States as part of private collections before being sold to a German family who may still have the painting, but experts are unsure. The painting to the right, Cupid Complaining to Venus, is the original version by Lucas Cranach the Elder, which Adolf Hitler displayed in his private gallery. I would like to acknowledge that the topic I chose touches upon an especially sad part of World War II history. For example, the painting on the right, Cupid Complaining to Venus, was stolen by the Nazis, most likely from a Jewish individual or family. After the Nazis stole the painting, Adolf Hitler had it displayed in his private art gallery. The original individual or family to own this painting prior to it being seized by the Nazis has never come forward. Martin Bailey, a writer for Art History News, has suggested that one possible explanation for why the pre-war family who owned Cupid Complaining to Venus, who was likely Jewish, is that the entire family was killed. The painting is now displayed in the National Museum in the United Kingdom. Prior to that, it had been acquired by an American journalist who was located in Germany during World War II named Patricia Lockridge Hartwell. Hartwell did not provide a plausible explanation for how she acquired the painting, and Hartwell's acquisition of it remains a bit of a mystery. Okay, for the next slide, I'm hoping to give advance warning that there will be Nazi propaganda photos on the next slide. Adolf Hitler viewed women through a good-bad binary with little room for nuance or complexity, as revealed by his propaganda and policies. The Nazis promoted marriage and childbearing as a woman's ideal role, and glorified women who did so through propaganda, such as the image that appears on the 1937 cover of New People, a Nazi publication. The women in such propaganda pieces represent women in the good or saintly role, as is the case for the Nazi propaganda photo on the left promoting a nurturing role for women. Conversely, women who were gender nonconforming or embraced lifestyles that opposed the Nazi ideal were demonized as asocial and were often targeted. Being asocial was a broad term that covered, among other groups, sex workers and women who had lifestyles the Nazis considered sexually deviant. Two transgressive categories for which only women, not men, were targeted in Nazi Germany: sex work and sexual deviancy. That was what I was referring to. So in conclusion, I think that given both Hitler and Lucas Cranach the Elder shared a tendency to either glorify or demonize women, and it makes sense that Lucas Cranach the Elder's art would appeal to Adolf Hitler's tastes. So next I want to address why even study this? Why study what art Hitler liked, or think about why? And the answer to that question is, though Cranach's artwork deserves to be assessed on its own merits and should not by any means be defined by its association with Adolf Hitler's personal collection, understanding why Adolf Hitler favored paintings by Cranach is worthy of study because it lends insight on Hitler's views that impacted his policy decisions, which included genocide and human rights abuses and impacted a great amount of people. Though the actions of the Third Reich are an extreme example, the study of why moral, binary, and Webermatt themes present in Lucas Cranach the Elder's work appealed to Adolf Hitler also reveals the importance of not oversimplifying individual women as always either totally belonging to either the saints good group or sinners bad group, due to the bad outcomes that can result when influential people hold and promote this sexist view. Thank you for watching.